and I'll let you know when we're up and going.
And I should start recording when now?
Yes. Yes. Okay, we're good to go.
Welcome everyone to CAHPERD Core Zoom presentations. My name is Patty Supay and I'm this year's CAHPERD president. I hope that you have been enjoying these valuable presentations hosted by CAHPERD. We began these series in the summer and we will continue through the month as we prepare for our exciting annual conference on March 11th through the 13th. It will be a virtual conference with many exciting speakers and presenters, including several state and national teachers of the year. Our keynote speakers are former Shape America President Judy Lobianco and Hip Hop Public Health's CEO and founder, Lori Benson and Dr. Williams. In addition, there will be several urgent town hall sessions addressing many hot topics in California physical education. You won't want to miss this year's conference. Registration information will be sent via email as well as available on the CAHPERD website. We need to remind you that these course series are being offered for free. Creation of these series and much other behind-the-scenes work is done every day by dedicated volunteers, such as those that are here today helping you with the tech side of this presentation. Thank you, Jessica, for that. Remember, this work in advocating for our jobs, the return of our minutes, and PFT testing in California schools rely on your membership. Our jobs depend on it. Now, before we introduce today's speaker, I want to remind you that our last course session this year will be with Judy Lobianco, one of our conference keynotes. She will be presenting a sneak peek of her keynote session with some very important information for health and physical educators in the world today. That session will be on Monday, January 18th. Be sure to include this into your calendar. In today's course session, we will be hosting Brandon Wolfe. Brandon is an accomplished teacher, coach, and educational leader in Kansas. In 2014, Brandon was named the Kansas Middle School Teacher of the Year and the 2015 Shape America Central District Middle School Teacher of the Year. Brandon presently serves as both the account manager and customer service manager for interactive health technologies. He works closely with teachers, schools, and districts to maximize and expand their use of the IHT system. Brandon's session is titled Tips and Tricks for Virtual Physical Education, 6 through 12. In this professional development session, attendees will be introduced to many free online resources. These resources are ready to be used and shared with students. Plus, attendees will be given free Google-created resources that can easily be shared with students throughout the Google Classroom. And now we are excited to present to you Brandon Wolfe.
Thank you, Patty, very much for that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So, good evening, everybody. Like Patty said, my name is Brandon Wolfe, and I reside in Wichita, Kansas, where I am a customer success manager for IHT, Interactive Health Technologies, which is a heart rate monitor and assessment software company. I've used the heart rate monitors in my school since 2014. So I joined with them to kind of help teachers use this technology within their classrooms. At the same time, I also am a remote teacher in Kansas, teaching middle school. So I'm going to share a little bit of what I know. I'm definitely not an expert in remote physical education and health by any stretch. I've learned from lots of different people. I've stolen lots of great resources that I'll be sharing with you today. Also try to create things that would work for my environment with my students remotely. So I will share that. So everything you see here today in this PowerPoint, you will be able to have. I will put the link in the chat and then also send this so they can go on to the California website where they're going to put all the resources, or you can grab it there as well. So just to let you know, everything you see, you can have and make it your own, and hopefully use it within your classroom and supplement it wherever you see fit. So let's just get started. First part, I'm going to talk a little bit about IHT since I've been using the system for a while. What is IHT? What does it What is it all about? Well, it is a wearable heart rate technology. We do have schools out there that are actually using this one-to-one remotely. So students actually have a heart rate monitor at home. They use their either Chromebook or their device to get on, where teachers can then upload lessons for them to participate in, and that will turn the heart rate monitor on, and then all that heart rate data goes right back to the teacher. So they're actually teaching remote virtual PE and getting some solid heart rate data that teachers are getting from students from a different location. But what I want to share with you today more with IHT is what the curriculum resources that we offer that you can use for remote learning. We have a 14 units that are not only just physical education, but you'll see some SEL, and then you'll also see some health units or topics on here as well. And these are all rewritable PDFs that can be used for your students, that you can easily send them on whatever platform you use, if it's Google Classroom, which is what I use, or if it's Teams or any type of learning management system that you might be using there with your students. This curriculum is more geared towards middle and high school students for sure. I'll give you just a little bit of tidbit of what this kind of looks like. It's either in a Google form, and it's also in a PDF form, but they're units, and there's 5. This one has 5 lessons that you can give your students. That it talks about long-term and short-term goals, and talks about the heart. And you can give these as little packets that students can work on virtually, and then hand them in using your learning management system there, whatever you're using, if it's Google Classroom or Teams or whatever you might be using with your school. So I wanted to definitely touch on that, because I think that is a great resource that might be something that you might be looking for. I know for me, it's ideas and how to keep students engaged. That can be definitely a challenge for sure. We also, with one more thing with the IHT curriculum, we also have YouTube videos that go along with these units that put physical activity in the house or in the home. So the students can watch YouTube video that goes along with the unit that gets the students up and moving, that correlate right along with each lesson. So again, just wanted to touch on that. That's something that IHT has put together for teachers out there that are trying to find ways to get students learning and moving all at the same time. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about, before we get into the resources that I want to share, I want to talk a little bit about some student engagement. I know for me, that can be very tricky. And I don't know if there's one great answer or great answers for this. Student engagement can be difficult because of the environment that you have your students, and the type of situation that you're in. Everything could, one thing could work for one person, one teacher, and it might not work for another. So I'm just going to give you some things that work for me, that's worked with my middle school students when it comes with student engagement. One of the things that I really work on with my students, since it's all remote, is trying to capture some type of building relationships with them, which is so hard. We as physical educators, when we are face-to-face, it's a lot easier to really build those relationships with students. But when you now have a computer screen in front of you and they're in a different location, it definitely gets hard. So one of the things that I just try to focus on is maybe a little less content for me and more SEL, more of that social emotional, because I know I have students that really struggle with this. And so trying to find a way to grab kids in the sense of bringing them along because of maybe some stress that they're going through, or some things that they might, anxieties that they might have doing this remote learning. It's one of those things that I really try to put on the top of my list. So some things that have worked for me, I try to put together a morning message, and I use the app on my computer called Screencastify. And a morning message, basically, I put on my Google Classroom, and it's a way to really, one way that I can engage my students, where it's just not me typing instruction or giving them an assignment, classwork. It's also that a little bit of, here I am. What's the morning message? It could be anything. It could be talk a little bit about what the week's going to look like, or what the day might look like, what maybe I have experienced, or give me some prodding questions about some things that they need to be thinking about maybe that day. So Screencastify is one of those where you can create little clips of videos, and you can put them right into your learning management system, and for students to click on. And so I really try to do that. And I think it really helped students. I know I have some of my kids are like, "Hey, coach, you forgot a morning message today." And because sometimes I don't get one every single morning, but I know some of my kids are looking forward to, what am I going to say next? Or I try to somewhat comical in a way to get my kids again to click on it and listen to what. And again, the message isn't long, pretty short message, but it's something that gives them a chance to see me, and not just me typing or giving them classwork on that classroom. I do a lot of SEL checks, and I'm going to share some of those today that you'll have that I think have helped kind of see where my students are throughout this process, because it has definitely been a wild ride. One of the things that I've kind of fell into was I'll give my lesson virtually, and then we'll usually have some time at the end. And we started, it was almost kind of accidental, but I had this time where kids were staying on, and we were just kind of talking about really nonsense stuff. I mean, we were just talking about their favorite foods at the certain restaurants, things that they like to do here and there in the summer, or what's coming up in the winter for us here in Kansas. And so I just started calling it nonsense talk time. And we kind of used it towards the end. I would let some of the kids that needed to go could go, but I left that around to be a chance for me to interact with my kids in a different light, and really just kind of talk about any kind of topics they kind of wanted to talk about. And at first it was, I'd get one or two kids stay on, and we just kind of chit chat. And the next thing I know, I'd have 8 and 10 and 12 kids that would stay on, and we would just kind of talk. And I even have some of my students were like, "Hey, we don't have much time for nonsense talk today." They were really kind of looking forward to that time, I think, to unwind and really just kind of talk about really kind of nothing. But I felt like it was one of those times where it kind of hit me. I thought, maybe this is something that is important for my students to have, and not maybe all of them, but maybe those ones that are really kind of struggling, that just need that social interaction that they maybe don't get at home, and having that chance to talk with their classmates and to also talk with me about just certain things. One of the biggest things that help with my student engagement is I provide a lot of choices on how they give me their end result. It's just not black and white. This is what I need. I try to give my kids some choices on that. And I'm going to go through some of those things as well on those different types of choices that I provide my students. One of the biggest things that I've done with my middle school students that has helped is either they can give me some of that work digitally, like typing, like either through a Google form or something that they're filling out, a Google slide possibly, but I also give them a chance to do it in a Flipgrid. So if you haven't had a chance to use Flipgrid, it's a great way for students to interact, and it's free, that you can use for kids that can really talk or can tell you what they've been doing or what they're doing or how to do it, versus maybe filling it out. I know I have some kids that have talked to me early in the process and said, "Coach, I really struggle with reading the material and comprehending it." And so giving them a chance to do a Flipgrid and tell me the responses versus typing it has helped. Because for me, this is just my opinion. I just feel like as long as they've grasped the concept that I'm giving them, no matter really how they output it to me, I think as long as they've grasped it, we're good to go. So I think providing those choices has been helpful for that student engagement, rather than kids just not doing it at all. which is what I kind of fell into early, whereas my kids just were not turning the things in and weren't engaged in my class. So the choices have been helpful. I've also worked with some cross-curricular, some other subject areas, and come up with projects that integrate physical education and health in that subject as well. And we work together and we build projects. And so when they come on with me virtually, remotely, they can work on that project that they're also working with in science. And so I work with them, they work with me, and we develop a little project that integrates both of our standards. And that's been very helpful because it gives me a chance to be able to work with them on their project with me remotely, where they're just maybe engaged on working on their work. And then I also can do that in science as well. So that's something to think about if you haven't already, if there's a chance where you can integrate that cross-curricular and give them a chance to do those different projects that integrate, different subject areas. Another thing that's helped me on my student engagement is really allowed students to lead class. I do some student-led classes, and it's really simple stuff for my middle school, nothing over the top. It's really more of a warm-up. Like if we wanted to do a quick warm-up before we get started on our lesson, I will have a student lead it. And I will give them prompt. I'm just not going to throw them out there to the wolves and make them have to come up with it on the fly. What I'll do is I'll let them know that that's something that's to be expected and kind of give them a heads up, and then they'll come on and they'll lead the class in some type of quick warm up. That's just a great way for kids to interact themselves on the screen, which we all know can be very difficult. But having that chance for the kid to kind of take the lead and do something really, to be honest, pretty quick and easy, it allows that student engagement to start building with not only with me and the student, but also the student and the other classmates. But we rotate it. We rotate around and we let the students have that opportunity to lead those classes in different times. And then the last thing that's really kind of helped, because I do have some students that really struggle with remote. It's just not up their alley. They're bogged down with lots of different classes. I mean, PE is not the PE and health, physical education and health is not the only subject that they have to do. We get that. So I have some kids that are really, really struggling. So I put out there on my calendar where the kids can actually have some one-on-one Zoom time with me if they're really needing some extra help. And sometimes it's used and sometimes it's not. But I think giving those students an opportunity to have that one-on-one where they don't feel comfortable sharing things within the group allows them to come to me and say, Coach, I'm overloaded. I'm missing 14 assignments from different classes. And it feels like I'm sinking. And allowing them to kind of have those conversations has kind of helped those students. So I do offer that as a chance for kids to get themselves caught up if they need to, or at least kind of give me the lowdown of what's going on. So anyway, those are just some tips and tricks that have worked for me. I'm sure there's tons of them out there that have maybe worked for other people. And I've tried to call all my friends and PE teacher friends and say, hey, what's working, what's not, and see and go from there. So we're all in this together for sure. All right, now we're going to dive into some some resources that I've either stole these from some great PE teachers out there. So I just want to put that as right now that there's some of these things that I've found that have been unbelievable. So I can't thank PE teachers enough, putting great things out there that have allowed me to help my students and help me really get through this tough time. So kudos to people out there sharing their stuff. So I want to give back and I want to share as well, and hopefully spread the love of curriculum and different things that you can supplement in for this remote time. The first one I want to share is a teen health survey. And the teen health survey, I teach health, so that's part of my curriculum. So one of the things that I came up with is a teen health survey. And this survey is a Google form. Most of the stuff you're going to see is a Google form, because we are a Google Apps for Education school. So everything we do is Google. So I apologize if you're not doing much with Google, but you'll see a lot of that on this PowerPoint. So a teen health survey. So I run my health curriculum based on my student responses. I don't teach out of the textbook, because I believe I want to give my kids pertinent information. If my kids are struggling to understand certain concepts, I want to teach those. I just don't want to go from chapter 1 to chapter 24. I want to put them in situations where they're learning things that they need to know more about. So what I do at the very beginning of the year is I put this health survey together, and this allowed me to really find the points of where my students are struggling or of understanding, or maybe they think something's true and it's really a myth. And we get that as teachers. Some kids think they read it and that's true, or, oh, well, I saw it on YouTube, so it's got to be real. So helping them understand these different health concepts and then presenting that as units. So I did this health survey. It's very lengthy. I'm not going to go through each one of them. I'm just going to scroll through, but it talks about general wellness. It talks about nutrition. Do you eat breakfast? How do you eat lunch? Do you skip meals? How much exercise are you getting? What type of foods are you putting in your body? Do you take vitamins? So you've got a nutrition part. I'm going to keep scrolling. I have, like I said, a general wellness. Do you wear a seatbelt? Do you wear helmets when you ride your bike? If you ride your bike, do you have help at home on homework, schoolwork? Goes through a whole slew of questions. It goes through stress, how much stress, what are some stressors in your life? All the way through, is there something I haven't asked? And it gives them a chance to give me some thoughts. How much video games are you playing? How much TV are you watching? And so I go through these. I have my students fill this out, and then then on Google, what's great thing about Google Forms is I can look at these responses, and then I can really see where I need to talk. What are some points that I need to really give my students? Do I see them not seeing lots of video games, lots of screen time, lots of people on their smartphones or on their Xboxes and PlayStations? And if it's a high percentage of my students, I'm going to give them a unit on the importance of limiting screen time and why that is important and using your time wisely. And I will give them some things to read and some things to do that's going to cover, or even a video to watch that is going to cover that topic. So I use these responses that are directly from my students, and I build my health curriculum accordingly. So again, this is something that you can say, I don't really like that question, or you can take questions in and out that you feel. If this is something that you're like, I kind of like this, but I don't really like some of these questions, or I want to add questions, when you get this PowerPoint, you're free to take this health form and make it what you want. So I know that's one of the questions that comes up when I present on this form. It's completely editable for you to make it best for your environment. So that's one of the things that I've been doing with my kids to help cover some health topics during this remote time. And that's called the Teen Health Survey. The other one is a fitness journal. And let me tell you, I've been through a bunch of these that's trying to work best. And it's so hard to find the best fit. And I've kind of gone through some different ones. And I think I found one that works the best for my environment when it comes to fitness logs. And some people might be completely against them, which I completely understand too. I mean, it's hard to make students accountable. Logs can be, cheated on, and I'm sure there's maybe ways to keep that at a minimum. But fitness journals, I think, is one of those things that are kind of used quite often for this remote learning. So I'm just going to go through a few that I have taken or developed that I've used and didn't work just for me for certain situations, or some ones that I'll show you some that I'm doing now. So I do a weekly wrap up. This is one I do with my sixth graders. It's really simple and easy for them to do. Put their name, put their hour. They tell me what they did on Monday. They tell me what health related fitness component they worked. It could be multiple, of course. what type of exercises did they do, and then how long they do it for. And then they do it for Tuesday, and they go all the way through the week. And at the end of the week, they tell me how long they did the exercise for, and then they give me a little thought process. How'd you feel? How'd you feel about the week with your exercise? And then also the total hours of exercise, and then they submit that weekly. And then I just pull the Google form, and then I can look at it that way. I've started doing this on Flipgrid, so I'm actually having students telling me what they did and showing me some of the things that they're doing. So I've actually moved this form to be a Flipgrid response versus a Google form. So it's just worked better for some of my students that are struggling filling this out. They're more than happy to get on a video and tell me some of the things that they're doing and showing me some of the things that they're doing as well. So again, might not work for you, but some of the things that I've done that have kind of helped that student engagement, which is what I think a lot of people, that I've talked to that are fighting for sure. So that is the fitness journal. Now, some of these I won't open, and I'm not going to open all these because I have a lot to share. So I'm going to skip through some of these, but I've got some quizzes on here. I have a weekly training log. This weekly training log is more for cardio. I don't use this anymore, but it was one I was using early where the kids were just giving me how much cardio they were doing. I know there's some school districts that said we can't do any cardio. We're not allowed to require any cardio at home from students. So that might be you in your district. But some schools can, so I just wanted to share this out there, but it's more of just a cardio only. And they just talk about how much intensity they did, where the location, where do they do their cardio. Cause I like to share where kids are being active. Hey, I'm going to the park, I'm going here, I'm doing it from the house. Just so I can kind of see where students are, where they're actually being active. And then of course, I always give them a chance to tell me how they feel. I think it's important to give them a chance to vent, and let me know what's going on. So always have that as an option too. So that one is the weekly training log. This one is a Google Forms assessment for physical education, and it is it's a Google Doc that's full of Google Forms for assessment. And I'm not going to open that up, but I'll let you, if you're interested, to click on that and to look at that. Some great teachers have developed some awesome forms, and they're all one central location. The next one is a fitness goal setting form and a fitness goal. I've done this before I was remote, but I also started doing this when I was remote. And basically what they do is they fill out this Google form on, they fill out this Google form about a SMART model goal. So they'll fill out their name, their date, if it's what type of test they're working on. Here's a SMART model acronym, and then they tell me, then they basically write it out, or they don't write it out, but they fill it out on this Google form. What are they working on? What tests do they want to get better at? Is it measurable? It talks about what actions are you going to do? Is this realistic? The time frame. And I use an add-on called Autocrat. It's a Google add-on that you can use on Google Sheets called Autocrat. And what you can do with Autocrat is all these responses, what you would do is I created a template that looks like this. So here's the template that I created. And as soon as the student submits this Google form, it merges all their responses into this document. So it's easy to read. So it basically takes this and puts it right here. And then I share this with the students. So the students can see what goal they set for themselves. And it's easy for them to look at. So that is, and then I also put on the bottom an activity log where they can go start working on it. Okay, now that you made your goal and you've made some action plan for it, now go through and let's start working on it from home. So they'll see their goal here, and then they can start filling out their log here. So again, it's called Autocrat. That's the Google Sheet add-on that you can merge. Whatever happens, they fill out a Google form would automatically merge into a template. So I've shared those with you as well, that you might find that might be beneficial. You can maybe not make it fitness. You can maybe, you can set a goal for anything, and make it into a Google form where it can merge into a template. All right. Eric, do we have any questions that I need to answer now before I move on, or?
Yes, Brandon, we do have a couple questions. One is
Sure.
a question about the fitness journal. And
Uh-huh.
the question is this the only way you grade the students, or do you use something else also?
Good question. Yeah, so I use, since I teach health concepts, I have a lot of health things that they will do for me for a grade. To be honest with you, the fitness journal is just a small part of their grade that I have for them, but it is something that, but it is part of their grade. It is not their only grade.
And then Brandon, another question, do you assign students with leading the exercises, or do you take volunteers to do this?
Yeah, so I tried the volunteer method and it went crickets. So, or you'll get that one kid that volunteers for everything every time. Maybe you're in that same boat as me on that deal, maybe not. So I assign. So I will let the students know what day they have for that week, that they're going to do the warm up or the class student led part, and I let them know so they're prepared for it. I don't want, just so I can get that participation for every student. I think it's good for them to do that. If a student just absolutely doesn't want to do it, it's something him and I work out, or him or her we work that out, and we'll talk through that. But again, I don't make it over the top. It's pretty simple, to be honest with you, but it's fun. The kids have a good time with it. I have them create their own brain. I have some kids that have created their own brain breaks, or I call them brain boosts, that they can do virtually. And I've gotten some really good ones that kids have done, which, could maybe annoy some teachers because it's talking about, some students have it where they're flicking their camera on and off at certain times and coming up with a pattern, and you got to match that pattern with the flick of them. I don't know. It was really interesting to hear, but it was really kind of cool once the kids started getting into it. So the kid would flick their monitor on and off a certain amount of time, and then someone has to match that. And then you add to it, and it's a memory game, and it's a memory game of turning the screen on and off. I don't know if that makes sense, but you almost got to see it to believe it. But anyway, so I will tell them beforehand that they're up on their student led.
And then Brandon, we've had quite a few questions about the links, and they will be shared on the CAHPERD website. And these links, if you copy, or if you open the link and then copy whatever the circuit planner or whatever, make a joke.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, sorry, Eric. It will force you to make a copy. So I made it where when you click on this blue link, that's why I'm not clicking on these links, and that's why I have a million of them open, because when you click on this, it's going to force you to make a copy. And once it forces you to make a copy, it's yours to have, and it's yours. You're the owner, and you can do what you want with it. So when you click on these blue links, it will automatically force you to create a copy.
And then a couple questions about the Autocrat. How do you connect Autocrat to Google Forms? Can you do a demo of that, Brandon, or is that something for later? Exporting Google Form to Sheets first is the question. And then the other question about the Autocrat is, do you use Autocrat to share with students one-on-one? How do you make time, or do you send it to the parents and students? So those are all kind of questions all into one.
Yeah. Autocrat's a very powerful tool. It's one of the things that I found a few years ago that was a game changer for me, because I use Autocrat for lots of different things. But Autocrat, it's AUTOCRAT. And if you look it up on your Google Sheets add-ons, it should come right up. You should see it. I don't know if I have time to show you a demo, but I will try. If you go to YouTube and you type in Autocrat add-on, there's a tutorial that will show you how to do it. How to do that auto-cratting a Google Sheet to your Google form. How much time does it take? It's really easy to do, really, to be honest with you, and it's no time at all. As soon as a kid pushes submit on the Google form, it automatically merges it and it puts it into a folder where then I can share it to the student, or I could share it to parents for sure. That's a great idea. But it automatically merges all those responses into their own into their own template for that. So I probably don't have time today to share that, but I know if you YouTube it, Autocrat, you'll find a tutorial on how to create that. And if I can find the one, I think I did a tutorial on it. So if I can find that in my stuff, I will share that with Patty as well, that she can put in there with right along with this PowerPoint.
And then can you put the link to your PowerPoint in the chat box so that everybody can get that without having to go to the CAHPERD website?
Sure, absolutely. Let me go into chat and paste. This should be it. So if you click on that, it should force you to make a copy of my presentation, and you should have it. So if one of you could let me know that worked, so I can, and if not, then I will try something else.
Thanks, Brandon. That's all the questions.
There's two other
Awesome.
questions in the chat. Somebody asked Brandon how many students you have per class.
Yeah, great question. So I was hybrid, just a kind of little backstory. So we started school as hybrid model, and we're supposed to go back here in the next couple of weeks, the hybrid model. So I have to teach students in school and remote at the same time. So put your mind around that. So anyway, once we've gone all remote now, I have about 30 kids in a class that I see at a time. It's not, I don't think it's a huge amount. My other school, I was at 65 kids. So it's less than that. So.
And one last question. They asked, how do you check for engagement when students do not turn on their video?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one of those that's really tough to do. So everyone's philosophy and video or cameras are all over the map. Some people are taking points off students' grades if they don't turn their cameras on. I am not. What's worked for me, and again, I'm middle school, so I'm a middle school teacher, so you got to be on the crazy side. But the less I pointed it out, the more engagement of the camera I got. So the less I harped on it, the more kids started coming along. I think once we started kind of doing some off the box, and I'm still going to share you some of those off the wall ideas, kids started coming on camera. But I will tell you, there's some classes I'm not 100% on. So I'm not going to say I have it all figured out, because I don't. I still have camera kids that don't show that screen time. And how do you deal with that? I think for me, it's reaching out to that student one-on-one. If I got some kids that don't put their camera on, but they're getting all their work done. They're giving me what I'm assigning. So I don't know. I think I got some kids that don't want to share they told me that, Coach, I just feel uncomfortable with my camera on because, my environment around me. It's not, I have 12 brothers and sisters. It's a madhouse. I've got things getting thrown at me when I'm on my video and blah, blah. Are they being truthful? I would hope I had a relationship with them to know that. But again, that's a great question. And I don't know how to completely answer that one. So sorry, that's not the best answer possible.
I don't know if there is a true answer to that. It's asked during a lot of our sessions. But the last question that I see in the Q&A, and somebody asked, is there a second chat? The Q&A is separate from the chat. So if you look at the bottom under Q&A, there are some questions there. And the last question that someone asked is, how long are your PE classes?
Remote, it's 30 minutes. So I only have my kids for 30 minutes all remote every day. And that's it. So my classes are not very long, I think, but I like that as a PE teacher because I don't think kids should be screen time the whole time anyway. So I like that they cut our classes down, just so it's less time for them to stare at a screen all day and sit. Just my opinion. Okay, so some other resources. So a circuit planner. So one of the assignments that I had on a Google slide was to create a circuit. So it's pretty plain Jane, nothing over the top. My kids will decorate these. Some of these kids will go full tilt on this, but I have my kids create a circuit, a fitness circuit with exercises. And then they can either type it in these text boxes, or I also give them choices, and they can also put a picture. So some kids can type what the exercise is, and I have some students that are putting pictures in. Some kids love to do the picture thing. Some kids are typers. So giving them an option, I think, is big for that. But it's a circuit planner. And then the second slide I have them fill out is how long is each exercise in your circuit, how much rest between each exercise, and then why did you choose the order that you chose, where you're starting and finishing. This is one of the things that I would have my students present. So this would be a student-led exercise or activity where they would do this. I would give this to them. I'd give them instructions, give them an example. I always give them an example of one, and then they would do it. They'll do it on the Google slide, and then once I'll do a couple of, I think I only do about 2 a class period, but they'll present and we will do their circuit. If possible. Some kids have put weights in it and it's just hard to do. You could just say, hey, body weight only, and make it to where students have to do this in your class and remotely. I opened it up to where kids can choose other things, because we were talking about weightlifting and different things of that nature. So, but this is something that even though we can't do it, they still have to talk about it. So they still have to present this remotely to the other classmates. And it's just called Circuit Planner. A warm up at home. I stole this one. This one's pretty cool. Little gifts. I'm a big gift guy. I love gifts. So, and we do this. I'll put this on the screen. This would be another warm up that I would do if I don't have a student lead it. I will put this up there, and then I go into my die, my virtual die. We'll roll it. And then once whatever it lands on, we come back to our, we'll go back to our warm up, and that's what we'll do. And we'll do that exercise. So again, just in, is this like unbelievable? I don't know if this is like super awesome, but it's just something little different that I can put up there that we do for the first couple minutes of class. Is doing this little workout. Again, I don't do this every day. We'll switch this up, but every once in a while I'll pull this out there and we'll do this activity with that. So that's called the warm up gifts that I have found. That was awesome. The matching is a Google drawing. It's called the heart. It's a health lesson that the kids can drag over. I know maybe people have seen this before. It's just a kids can drag the names of the heart and label it over to their Google drawing. So you would just assign this to everybody, have their own copy, and then they can do it. And then you can grade it from there as well. So it's a Google drawing for matching. Using GIFs, I'm a big GIF guy. So this is something that I actually have my kids create their own GIFs. So this one I've done when not in remote as well. So, but now we're remote, it works out even better. So I will put a rubric in. Again, I stole this. So FYI, I didn't create this. So this is a push-up self-assessment. I put a visual of what a 4 would be, what a 3 would be, what a 2 would be, and what a 1 would be. And then they would create their own GIF of them doing it, and then self-assessing where they felt like they are on their push-up. And then I put the directions on how to create the GIF here. So it talks to them step by step, and it's really easy to do to create a GIF. It's really, really simple nowadays. There's tons of websites that you can do this on. And then I have them tell me some areas of strength, some areas of weakness, and then what are they going to do to get better at the push-up. So again, using GIFs, this could be a project that kids can work on over time of learning how to create a GIF. The rubrics can be different. You could do different rubrics. You can just have them create an exercise. I've done create their own exercise before. That's how I got 360-degree push-up. I will go over that here in a little bit. But kids, I've had create their own exercise where they have just be And then they would put a GIF of it, and then they would share their exercise running GIF of them doing something that they've created. It might be a crazy jumping jack, or a crazy way to do a push up or a sit up, or who knows. I've seen some pretty cool stuff. So anyway, there's directions like step by step of how to create that. But I really like this because I think the kids really like it because it's just kind of a unique way to share and get somewhat creative on what they're doing. And that is the rubric one. Full name workout. I stole this one from Jason Still up north. He put this together pretty early in the year of remote world times. And so I have them, they will actually flip grid this to me. So they'll actually flip grid them doing this levels. And this is maybe a little bit more on the elementary side, but my middle schoolers, they like it. So level 1, level 2, or level 3, depending upon what they're doing. Usually my kids will strive for level 3, doing their first, middle, and last of these exercises, and they'll put that on Flipgrid for me to watch, spell their name out. This is one I did at the very beginning of remote, just to kind of get them going with it, just to have a little bit of fun with. But it seemed to work out pretty well. The full name workout. And this is one too, sometimes we'll put up there, and we'll do a little game with this, little brain boost game with this, where they'll pick an alphabet letter and then we'll do it, or we'll spell out a health term, and we'll exercise to it. So if we're working on, like this week, we're working bones. So we're watched Ed Puzzle on bones this week. And then we talked about the different types of the bones, and we spelled the bones out, and then we did the exercises with the bones we're using. So again, something to do with them remotely, that, again, if their cameras are on, so I get that for sure. That they're doing it. This Google Classroom PowerPoint, I'm not going to open up, but it is a PowerPoint that I created for a presentation that I did a couple years ago. It does have health. The reason why I put it on here is because it has health units that are already created, that you can there's a drug one, there is an alcohol one, that you might want to look at on that Google Classroom PowerPoint. So that's why I shared that one. Okay, so I also found this website. It is super cool, and it is called wordwall.net. And it's free. You can create 5 activities on wordwall.net, 5 free ones, but you could create all sorts of different things. So I'm going to share you some ones that I've created. This one is called Mystery Box. We do Mystery Box Monday. And basically you can create, you just push start, share my screen, push start. And I just have the kids usually will pick a number. Now I'm going to skip ahead of myself, but I made one called Flippity. Flippity is a website we'll go to, but I have put all my kids' names in here, and I can do spin their names. I can do single name, and they can, and then whatever name they come up with, they come over here to my, where it is, there it is, my mystery box, and then they pick a number. Okay, number, 1, and they might have to do pacer laps. Now, when I created this, we were in hybrid model, so I created one that was remote, so it's something they can easily do in their spot. But I've done this when we were in school, up on the projector. We still kept, because kids wanted to do Mystery Box Monday even when we were remote, so I kept it rolling. So I created one that is more geared towards home. But basically they pick a box. It has an exercise. Sometimes the exercises there's no exercise, and they like that. They get to pick one that says no exercise. So I put a couple in there as well, but it's just called Mystery Box. And it is a one way to, again, engage your kids, get some student engagement, to put together some exercises, some activities. So wanted to share that one. Virtual die goes right along with Mystery Box 2. We roll the die and then pick the box rather than picking people before. Fitness bingo. This is another one we've done remotely. And so you have a bingo card and a bingo spinner. So I use the same website called wordwall.net, and I created activities to go onto my spin wheel. So I have all my exercises right here, and then how many they're doing in parentheses. And then I have my bingo card, and it is on here as well. It's called bingo card website. It's called bingobaker.com. And basically you create the bingo card as a teacher, and then you share the link to the students, and it will give them a random card. And then on their Chromebook or whatever they're using for technology is I'll come back to the spinner, we'll spin the wheel, and then whatever it lands on, we'll do it. So we got 30 seconds of Superman, and they go back to their bingo card and they find Superman. And if they have it, they click on it, and then they can look for bingos. So it's just a fun way to kind of get interactive with my kids from home and doing a little bingo with some exercises. What I found after doing this for a little bit was doing, rather than reps, doing seconds, doing time versus reps. The reason why is because it's easier to move on. So I might say, hey, we're going to do this for 20 seconds, go. And then they can go. So we're not worried about how many they can do, because I got some kids at different pace, of course, on different strengths. So it was easier for me to change that parentheses to amount of time versus reps. That's just me. That's my personal opinion that helped me out. But again, whatever, if you think this is something you could do it however you want, but it's called wordwall.net. And it is the bingo website, and is the bingo card, and then the fitness bingo is the wheel. And you can create your own wheel, you can put your own exercise on there, but I definitely wanted to share that because it's been pretty cool to do with my students here and there. The next one is called Personalized Workout. And I stole this one. It was amazing. I found it, I think, on Twitter. I don't remember who did it, but it was awesome. But Personalized Workout is one that I share with my students. I'll share this with my kids to view. And this is one we'll do. What I normally will do is give them a Darby a day. And I know you probably all heard of Darby. Darby's, our workouts are amazing. If you haven't seen Darby, I would look it up. But I was able to make a PDF, separated all my hundreds of Darby workouts in a single PDF. And so I share a Darby a day. I call it workout of the day. So I share a Darby of the day. And that's one of the things that they can, as a choice, can do, because some kids will come and tell me and say, I don't have anything. I don't know what, I don't have anything to do. And I say, well, you always have a Darby to do. But this one was one that I really liked, personalize your fitness and build your own workout. So the kids will just enter. It's a very interactive Google slide. So they'll push start. It has yoga, cardio, Pilates, Tabata, or strength. The kids can choose what they want to do. So let's say I'm going to do cardio. Now it picks what do they want to be. They want to do a beginner workout, intermediate workout, or advanced workout. So let's do advanced. And then it brings them to the workout, and they push play and they do it. And then at the very bottom, which I don't know if you can see here, my thing's in the way, but there's a Google form that I created that is a reflection. So once they do this, they click the Google form, they reflect. It gives them some questions of what they did, how long they did it for. I don't know if I have that one on there. See if I can open it up. So the Google form is just a Google reflection. What hour, what did they do this? What they chose, and then what fitness component was it? And then what health related fitness component was, how long they did it for, and then how they felt. How intense was it? And then they submit that for me. So again, really cool. I think the kids really like it. This is something you can reuse this over and over again, and have the students do. And that is called physical activity, personalized workout. This next one that I am going to share is a tracker. And it is one I started with, but it's a little over the top for my middle school kids. It's pretty lengthy. It's a little hard for them to understand, but I stole this. Somebody had created it. Thank you, whoever they were. I won't remember, but literally this is really cool. So the first Google slide or Google sheet tells them directions and why they're doing it. And then they go down to the bottom on these tabs and they start collecting their logs. So they'll put in the date. I predated these when we started school. Our first day of school was September 14th for us, because we delayed our start because of COVID. So they'll pick what they did, what type of activity, how long they did it for, what fitness component, and then they'll reflect. And they'll just keep this. And then I can I started doing checks, like I would check weekly checks on how they were doing on this. But if they were doing anything that was on YouTube, I asked them to put a link in there, because sometimes some kids were doing some pretty cool YouTube workouts that I would like to see, because I might use them for class at some point. So I wanted to see kind of some of the things that they were doing. But this was a fitness tracker. It didn't really work for my middle school kids. It got a little cumbersome for them, to be honest with you. So I didn't want to fight them on it. So I just kind of changed to something different. But I wanted to share this because when I first saw this, I thought this was really, really cool. And the weeks, each tab is their own week. So you could click on the next tab and do the next one, and the next tab is the next week. So I wanted to share that physical activity tracker. Monthly mood meter, again, is something I stole that I think is great for SEL purposes. So this monthly mood meter, which is here, right here, basically just gives them the days of the month, and then they'll just drag over how they felt that day. Again, it talks about energy level, how they feel, pleasant or unpleasant, and then they would just put it down. I shared this with my students, each have their own. And then this is one way where if I was struggling with a student, I asked them to fill out their monthly mood meter. And then I would go in and look at this before I contacted the kid, to kind of get an idea about how their day's going, how their week's going, how their month is going, and to see what's kind of going on. So believe it or not, I had some kids that really, really liked this way, and kind of were telling me how they felt, and it was a good way for them to check that as well. So, and again, a little interactive way to do it. So I want to share that. I found that, I thought that was really neat as well. The other one is called Flippity. I kind of talked about it already. Flippity is a great way. You can do all sorts of things with Flippity. You can make a scavenger hunt. Here, all interactive scavenger hunt. You can do a randomizer. I've done the name. You can do a quiz show with your kids. You can do a board game. They also have bingo cards here. So all these things that you can do on Google using Flippity, and the directions when you click on them, it's easy step-by-step directions about how to create it. And so I've done this where I can easily put them in teams. 3 teams, 4 teams, 5 teams. I can do it wouldn't have to do a scene check as a remote, but if you wanted to do a lineup of who's next, you can do that. You could do a spinner, which kind of gets crazy with more kids, of course, probably wouldn't work. Be great for that. But anyway, Flippity is a pretty neat and free way to kind of organize and do some interactive things with your students. And that's called Flippity. Is there any questions, Eric, that we're getting so far?
How are we doing for time, Patty? We have quite a few questions.
Yeah, we have questions both in the chat and the Q&A. So
and that's my last slide too. So if we want to answer questions and call it good.
Let's just go with it. Eric, go.
Okay. Some of the questions that have come up. One of them, Brandon, is about the gifts. Work well with your SPED students and your ELL students. Yes, they do. And they work with, I had created gifts, especially for those students. I mean, before we were remotely, but so my SPED students actually come on with a para. And so my para works with them to create some things. We have to adjust it, of course. There's some modifications for sure, but it has definitely worked well in the teaching world for sure with my SPED students using GIFs because it's a great visual. And then also, is there a source for these GIFs? The question is, they look like they're coming from a library. Do you have a link to that library? No, I don't have a link to any library. I've created, I don't have it on this one, but I've created some GIFs that I will share with Patty. That's a Google folder full of things that I've done
gift-wise that might be useful. I've created some ones when I was in school with QR codes. So they would scan the QR code and then it would give them a GIF on their computer, and then they would do that in a station work. And I think I still have that, but I don't have a running library of things that I have for those. So, but I'll see if I have a folder that I can share.
And then also the question is that this person knows that you use IHT monitoring, so use the IHT heart rate monitors. But if they are not available, do you have any ideas of how you can use active heart rate as a monitor of activity level with honesty and accuracy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, working with teachers as an IHT, a customer success manager, working with teachers that are using our monitors for students at home, virtual, basically remote learning with each kid has their own. You can't get any better. There's your, I mean, again, but you're talking money, and I know there's going to be some limitations to that for sure. But I don't know if there's any other way than a heart rate monitor to grasp that responsibility, that ownership, and what word I'm losing that word, but basically keeping them honest. There's really no other way. You can teach them how to take their own heart rate and then write it. But again, that you're getting into the weeds on that a little bit with how that's going to come out. And your kids better than I do, of course. So you might think that could be something that you can do with your students. I know for me, that would be hard for my kids. My kids are used to wearing heart rate monitors. So, that's worked really, really well. But again, and that's my thing with remote physical education. It's so hard, to do it. So I think for me, I don't know if there is an accurate way other than wearing a heart rate monitor. I don't know if that answered that question completely, but
and then I'll think that's how up on some of these questions here, Brandon. And one of them is this person works with 5 different classes of 50. Do you know how he or she would use Flippity for that many classes? Would there be one for each class?
Yeah. So if you could still see my screen, so I made teams up here. This is so these are all my classes. So I have them broken down into A days and B days, because when I was hybrid, my kids come to me on different parts of the day or different parts of the week. So I have an A day for first hour and a B day for first hour. So these are all my rosters broken up. So if you wanted to use Flippity, you would have one class of 50 as a class that you could click on. And then if you wanted to start using it for the next class, you could click on that class. So I labeled them this way because it's just the easiest way for me to understand. But you can label this however you want. But yeah, Flippity, you can create as many groups and many classes as you want to when it comes to that.
And then another question, Brandon, is only the start of the heart unit link is available. How would they access the others? And that means they would have to be part of our IHT Spirit system, but I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, so IHT has the curriculum available for a price. It is a paid where you're going to get the assessment software and the curriculum to go along with it. So if you're interested in it and want maybe see if it's something that would be worthwhile for you in this remote time, feel free to reach out to me. I can give you some more information about who to contact, which would be Eric, of course. He's the regional vice president of sales. So he'd be somebody to reach out to on that, or you can reach out to me if you want a little bit more information about how that would work for that curriculum. But that Start at the Heart's the one I wanted to at least give people to see it and feel it and kind of understand what these lessons are within each unit. And they are Google. We did move them to Google. That one's a PDF, but we actually have them that are Google created, so they're easier to share and be typed on, and they're not something that has to be on a PDF. Just FYI, because I know that was one of the things that teachers really wanted, was making it more interactive versus on a PDF.
And I'll put my email address in the chat box in case you have a question about that yearly fee, which is $300 for the resources, and the assessment software. Or if you have questions about the heart rate monitors, we have a lot of schools in California that are using heart rate monitors remotely, one-to-one, because they work off our app and they can be used with Chromebooks, smartphones, iPads. So we have a lot of California schools that have gone to that. Next question, Brandon, and then I'll put my information in the chat box, is when you are live streaming, are the kids on campus also on Zoom? Is everyone doing the same activity? Struggling with live stream and kids in person.
Yeah, absolutely. They're different. I try to do them all the same, but it was just too hard. So the kids that are remote are on a different curriculum and a different pace than my kids that I have on campus. I tried to do it at the same. It was driving me nuts, so I had to change it.
And next question, Brandon, do you have an option for students who are not allowed to film themselves? Our district has a rule about students not being allowed to film themselves.
Yeah, that's again another hurdle to jump on that deal. I think that, you know, I got to the point with this is we can do what we can do. You know, I can only control so much. So, you know, my only thing would be to give them an opportunity to just do everything that is, you know, written down, and say, you know, we can't do anything video wise. Maybe come up with finding pictures of the same exercise from the web that they could put together a collage of things that they're doing. That's not them doing it, but maybe they can find pictures of that same exercise somebody else doing that they can put together and collage, and then voice over them explaining things that they've been doing at home. I don't know if that makes sense, but that would maybe one thing I might try with those students.
I think that answer that you just had, Brandon, answers this question also, but I'm going to read it just in case. What do you do when you have parents who refuse to let their kids be on video? I've had parents refuse to let their kids take pictures of themselves or do time-lapse videos or Flipgrid.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what I would have them do. I have, you know, is basically finding a way for them to put a collage of exercises to do. And again, you can say, are they really doing them? I don't know, but again, it's out of my control. I'm going to put forth, that's why I kind of focused more on my social emotional side of things with my students versus activity, because you can get into a whole crazy thing with that for sure. So that would be one thing to do is have them present something to me with them not on camera, but something they can find examples of on the web.
Yeah, and it looks like somebody in the chat box said Strava and apps are good for non-video classes. So I just open that up to everybody. Brandon, that's all
Awesome.
the questions. It looks like we're past time. And one more question. They could use Screencastify and not have the video on and present a slideshow with pictures or something. So that was not a question. It was.
Yes. Very good. Absolutely. They could screen share without putting their video on there. Absolutely. Great comment.
I'll let you.
Well, thank you, everybody. I know we went over. I apologize. But hopefully you find something in here that might be useful. We're all in this together. Feel free to reach out to me if there's something that I didn't get answered. By all means, please reach out. I know I've reached out to many. So best of luck this year. Again, if there's anything that you want or need, or if I will give it to you without blinking an eye. But with that, thank you for coming on. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of the school year and take care.
I do want to say one last thing. I just want to remind everyone that all of this information and this video has been live streamed to YouTube, so you can get it on the CAHPERD YouTube site. You can also get it on the CAHPERD website. And Brandon is going to give me all these resources so that we can post them on the CAHPERD website as well. And so thank you all for participating. And thank you so much, Brandon, for this great session. It looks like we're getting some really good responses, and we appreciate your help, and thank you so much.
Yes, no
And-
problem. Thank you, Patty.
All right. Thank you very much. Good night, all.